Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around it is my review of the 1983 horror film Angst. Now, this is a Austrian uh, production, and it's a film that I probably never would have gotten around to watching anytime soon if it wasn't for the fact that it was another request from Seth, and I want to give Seth another shout out for requesting this review. And I'm really glad that he asked me to check this one out because this is a treat when it comes to the film's style and when it comes to the direction and the performance by the film's lead in Erwin Leder. It's one of those movies that it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for the squeamish or the faint of heart. I wouldn't say it's as abhorrent as something like August Underground. It's definitely a much better kind of film in that regard. It's got some moments of extreme violence, but it doesn't feel like it's completely pointless like some of the films that I've seen that pride themselves on how extreme they are when it comes to their gore and their violence. And it's one of those movies that is worth a watch for the directing alone. The directing in this is amazing. I thought the director, Gerald Kargl, was at the top of his game here, and the film was just a mesmerizing experience to watch due to his direction and just how audacious and how ballsy he was in terms of all the different techniques he used and different shots and different angles. And I know some people might view it as too chaotic, but I think it was perfect because it was just a believable extension of this crazed sociopathic maniac that the film is following for the majority of the running time. So it's one of those things where I definitely do feel he more than likely did that on purpose. He chose deliberately to have these uh, different angles, these different zooms, these different approaches in terms of the directing to take the audience off guard and to also provide the film with even more mood and atmosphere that matches the psychotic mindset of the film's lead. And yeah, it is a real treat to watch when it comes to the the film's visual style. Very impressive directing in this, and some impressive performances too. Mainly by Erwin Leder, who plays Kay, the psychopath. Uh, I thought he was gripping, just a powerful performance. Uh, Definitely something that you could not look away from. And the reason for that is just how genuine and authentic his portrayal of this psychopathic killer was. You bought that this was a guy who was deranged and had more than a few screws loose, and someone you definitely felt uncomfortable around. And because of how chaotic he was and how unpredictable he was in terms of his actions and his motives, it provided its own sense of suspense. This film proves that you can actually have a successful, efficient horror film without that much character development or depth or honestly any real memorable characters because of the force that is this killer and also the force that is the direction, which in itself, like I said, it's an extension of him. So the directing is just as unpredictable as he is. And it's not a very complex film either when it comes to its plot. Like in the beginning of the film, there's some narration from I think a doctor who's talking about the history of this killer and so on and so forth. and why he was in jail and why he's being released. And then you started to hear the narration of the killer himself. And that's where you get the majority of any character development or depth, is from the narration. And I really like the fact that it delves super deep into this crazed maniac psyche. Like, you have moments where he's talking about how he just can't wait to meet new people, and he's talking about this like you would if you were excited to go on a blind date, or you were excited to go to the bar and meet some people and maybe take someone home. And he's talking about it in that way. But the reason why he's talking about why he's so excited to meet new people is that he's so excited to kill people, to kill new people. And it's so twisted, but it's so compelling because of the fact that you buy it. That's believable. You're like, yeah, crazy maniac would probably look at meeting new people in that way. And then you have a moment later on after he's killed 3 people. He talks about how much better he feels, how much lighter he feels on his feet. And it's disturbing, but at the same time, it's so compelling because of how accurate it is. Like, that just nailed it. Like, 100% in terms of the psychotic mindset of these killers. Their justification in a lot of ways for their actions is that it just makes them feel better. They like it. They like killing. They like doing this stuff. I mean, there's other stuff where he actually reaches a sexual climax. He creams his pants just at the thought of some form of psychological or physical torture on another person. And you're just like, ooh, that's so fucking wrong. But at the same time, it's so captivating because of the fact that it's so open and it's so real and it's so raw. And it's not a very big body count film. So if you're expecting that kind of thing, you're not going to get that with this movie. In fact, there's only 3 people that die, and 2 of the kills really aren't much. One is this older gal who you could argue she just dies of shock, and he's pissed off at one point in the film because she died before he was able to torture her and kill her the exact way that he envisioned. Um, and then there's this other disabled guy who he drowns in a tub, which for some reason was already full of water. What, I don't understand why anyone would leave a tub full of water just there. Maybe it's because he's a disabled guy and they have it there, so just in case he wants to take a bath, so then they don't have to set it up for later. But it's insinuated that the bath had was full of water for the entire day, and it's like I don't know how sanitary that is. I don't. It just seems like a waste of water to me. But I'm not the one that is responsible for that. It's not my house. But it's just one of those things where it was a little puzzling. But and he drowns the guy. But the one kill that is the real standout is this girl. He tracks her down, hunts her down in this tunnel, and then just stabs the shit out of her. And it's a brutal, intense sequence because of just how grisly it is. Just stabs her multiple times, blood spraying everywhere, gets covered in blood. And Erwin Leder really sold that was something that really uh, got his rocks off. Like, he was really excited at that. And that whole scene was just so well shot, so well put together. One of the best examples of a brutal, visceral kill that I've seen in any film because of just how raw and real it appeared and it looked. And then, because he's a sick fuck, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take these corpses and I'm going to take them with me, and I'm gonna go find more people. I'm gonna meet more new people, and I'm gonna kill more people. But I'm gonna keep these corpses because I'm gonna use them to scare and terrify my next victims." And the film ends in a way that I didn't honestly expect. It's no explosive finale, it's nothing like that. He's about ready to start another killing spree and go after some more girls that he had his eye on earlier in the film. And he was also going to rope in the people who were running the diner, or I think it was like a sausage and coffee house. So he was going to take the waiter and the other guy who was there eating his lunch, and he was going to kill them too. But he gets stopped because he went a little too crazy trying to get away from the scene of the crime earlier, and got in a little car accident, caused the cops to start looking around, and maybe the cops found the bodies. Well, they wouldn't have found the bodies because he took the bodies, but maybe they came over and saw the house that he broke into earlier. And speaking of the house that he broke into, I want to give the director a lot of credit for the way he shot that sequence as well. Especially the sequences where the lights are out and he's just hiding in plain sight. Really great moments of chilling suspense there. But he just gets caught on a routine sort of check by the police, who stop by the the sausage and coffee shop and talk to the killer and say, "Hey, where's your license?" And he's like, "I don't have it." And it's like, "Where's your license? We need your license. You need to have your registration." And he knows that he's busted at this point. So then he just decides to give himself up, and he opens the trunk and shows everybody the dead bodies. And you have his narration, and he's talking about, "Oh, I, I, I can't wait to see the look on people's faces. Then they're gonna fear me." And when I show them the corpses, and he just opens the trunk, and there's a bunch of corpses in there, and you see people's shocked looks on their faces, and then he gets arrested. And I think you have a little more narration from like the psychiatrist or something that talks about how he got captured and he was sentenced to more time in jail. I think at this point he was sentenced to life. And yeah, it's a very simple, straightforward plot, if you can even call it that. It's the day in the life of a sociopathic serial killer, and it's not something that's for everyone. It's not something I would watch over and over again, but it's presented in such a unique way, and it's so well done that I wouldn't mind adding it to my collection sometime. And it's not only the direction that is a real highlight with this film. I felt the score by Klaus Schultz was also quite spectacular in terms of how well it melded the mood and the atmosphere together. It was a very moody score, and it elevated a lot of sequences on its own in terms of the dread, in terms of the suspense. And the cinematography by Zbigniew Rybczynski, who also edited the film. There's a dual threat here. Did a great job as the cinematographer, and equally as great job editing the movie. And it's only 83 minutes. So it never really feels like it's dragging or it's too long, and the simplistic nature of it works because it's trying to be a fairly realistic portrayal and look at the day of a crazed killer when he gets out of prison. You get to hear his motivations firsthand of why he's doing this. You get to hear a little bit about his past and how he started out being obsessed and deranged with and not really deranged, but he started becoming obsessed with a lot of dangerous and really disturbing things even at an early age, and it ties into how he was raised. Like, his mother had this fetish where she wanted to be abused, and she started to have her son abuse her so she could have sexual pleasure. So at a young age, when you're that impressionable, then he started to get into that, and it started to be exciting for him. And then he took things further. He started to torture animals. He started to do all this other stuff, and then he moved up to burglaries and robbing people's houses and robbing people of their safety. And then he went up another notch to murdering people, which is really a realistic uh, take on the evolution of a killer. If you look at a lot of these killers, a lot of them did. They started out on a very similar or nearly identical trajectory before they went to full on serial killer. So, yeah, it's not a film that I think everybody is going to like, but if you are at all interested in this concept, or if you like something like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, because for instance in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, there's not really good characters in that. Maybe there's one character here or there, but there really isn't anyone that you're like, oh, like, especially the ones that the film focuses on the most, they're not good people. And the same thing uh, is present here with Angst. And that being said, you still felt for his victims because they're innocent. They really didn't do anything to deserve the uh, fate that they ultimately received. But it's one of those things that, despite how fucked up and how messed up this film is and its premise is, the way that it's handled is so expertly done that it's a it's a great movie in a lot of ways. So I honestly would recommend this one. Just prepare yourself for it. It's definitely a dark film, but if you're in the right mood for it, I think you can find a lot here that is worth your while. But anyway, I don't really know what else to say about Angst except thanks for watching my review, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.